Hello and welcome to our Amplified Life. Oh my goodness. Amy and I are so darn beyond thrilled with all of the new people we have hanging out with us here on YouTube. So we wanted to just kind of take a few minutes to reintroduce ourselves. This is going to be maybe remedial. We're going back to school right now, so remedial is going to be the word we use. It may be remedial for those that have been with us for a while, but you may glean just a little bit more insight into our lives today. And then for those that are brand new to this channel, welcome. We're thrilled to death to have you, and you're going to know more of the ins and outs about what make Amy and I tick and what goes beyond the scenes of the fashion world that you see us in and day out here on our Amplified Life. So we're excited to just chat, right, Amy?
Yes, and this is actually, I'm going to call it our Zoomiversary, because we really started doing these videos to stay in front of our clients when the shutdown happened. And I'm just going to give a quick backstory to that. We were trying to scramble and come up with new ways to serve our clients. And so Rebecca and I connected, and we decided to do a couple of Zoom lives for our clients that are in our private VIP groups. And we thought we're going to start with 1 week, see how it goes. We really didn't have a plan. We didn't know what we were doing. I mean, we had a plan, but it wasn't like a long-term plan. It was a week-to-week plan. And oh my gosh, it kind of went off seamlessly. And we kept going and we kept going. And the problem with Zoom was that your recordings disappeared after so much time. So by December, we decided to start dumping the recordings into my personal YouTube page, because we didn't want to lose them forever. And then we got smart and created our own YouTube page. And back then we were called Style RX. So if you've been following us for a while, you'll recognize that name. In fact, you'll see that in some of the thumbnails in some of our previous playlists. And truly, we decided after doing this is like year 3, I believe, we decided this has truly amplified our life and brought joy to us. We get to see each other on a weekly basis, and we found kind of our niche within our own private groups and how we like to serve our clients. So that brings us here today.
Yeah. Well, this whole relationship and friendship has been so serendipitous anyway, because it all started with an Instagram picture that you posted of this adorable puppy. And I thought, oh my gosh, that has to be a Walker Coonhound, but he didn't have any black on him. And so I reached out to you, and it's just snowballed from there into just one of my most cherished friendships. And so I think there's a little nugget for everybody watching this to take away. Don't hesitate to reach out to people. Social media it can be edifying. I know sometimes it can be a little bit demoralizing as well, but it can absolutely be edifying. And you can meet women from all over that you would not normally even know. I was just at a friend of mine's house in Southwest Nebraska, and it was the same thing. I had reached out, she had posted something, I didn't even know her. She was a friend of a friend of a friend, I think, and it somehow popped up on my Facebook feed years ago. And I reached out and just told her how much what she had said resonated with me, and we just built this relationship. And again, she's someone that I see a couple times a year, but she's got such a heart. And I just love to spend time with her when we do get the little chance. But just reach out. You never know what kind of relationship you might build and foster, and how absolutely incredible it could be in the long run.
Well, and I want to say this too. I think sometimes, to a degree, we're all intimidated by other women. We may be fully comfortable in celebrating those other women, but it's our inward self that's saying, oh, no, like she wouldn't want to talk to you, or you have nothing in common with her. And back to when Rebecca and I it really was just an Instagram post. And then we ended up at this leadership conference. Well, actually, I'm going to back up just a little bit more because I don't know if Rebecca remembers the impact on my life, but I was going through a really, really hard time. We were at our live scoop and we were in a leadership training. And the speaker asked if anybody wanted to be the volunteer. And I usually shrink in those things, but I don't know what happened. My arm went straight up. And I was in tears before I even got to this stage, but I happened to be sitting behind Rebecca. And this was after we first connected on Instagram. And that was a very hard point in my life. And I was brought up on stage, talked about goals, why I wanted them. And I sat back down and I just remember Rebecca's warm smile. And she looked back and just touched my leg because I had tapped on her and I said, "You're the dog lady." Like that was the first time we actually connected in person. And then fast forward 6 months and we both ended up at a leadership thing. I didn't know that it was her first time and it was my first time. And everybody else that I knew had been going for a long time because it's a very exclusive by invitation thing that Cabby used to do. And I was supposed to pick a roommate. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it was one of those moments I hurried and clicked on Rebecca's name and closed the computer. And I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Why would like, I honestly didn't think I had any value. And I know I'm a talker. And I thought, I'm just going to drive somebody crazy. And that was it. I mean, that really cemented our friendship, I believe, because once we got together and we realized how the universe really pulls like-minded women together, it's giving me goosebumps right now. You just can't plan those things. And I do believe that you have to take steps forward in order for those people to come in your life. But how impactful is that? So just like Rebecca reaching out to this woman who now she has a relationship with, I mean, it's amazing what can grow and foster from maybe facing a little fear, maybe it's getting some courage, locking arms with someone else. So.
Absolutely. Well, that seems like we could have an entire topic on that, but we're here today to share a little bit of the backstory on us, right?
Yep.
All right, so I think I'll just go first. And for those of you that don't know me, my name's Rebecca. I live in north central Kansas, about 6 miles from the Nebraska border. My husband and I are on a farm. We have through the years raised cattle and sheep and registered quarter horses. We're down to just registered quarter horses now, and probably going to be dwindling that herd down a little bit more. And then on the farm, I also have a cut flower farm. So I grow beautiful flowers for florists, and that's just been such a blessing in my life.
And even like those flowers are beyond beautiful. They are fantastically beautiful.
It's really been an incredible journey. So Kevin and I do not have 2-legged children. So all of well, I guess if you count chickens in the mix, then we have some 2-legged children, or I do. I'm pretty sure Kevin would not claim them. But we've got dogs, horses, cats, I mean, a whole menagerie running around here. So animals are really something that feed my soul, along with being outdoors and, doing all of just the nature inspired things. I just really am most centered and feel the most calm when I'm connected with nature and I'm barefoot out in the dirt somewhere and hopefully digging in it too. I really I love to get out. I love to see women. I love to serve my clients, but then I get to come back here and play in the dirt and get recentered and ready to go back out and pour into more women's lives, hopefully. So that's a little bit of a blip about our life behind the scenes here in Kansas.
Okay, well, I have a question for you, but I'll give the backstory to my life in Utah. I live about 20 minutes outside of Park City, Utah, where the 2002 Olympics were held. We actually are in a very rural part of Utah. I live in a town called Wanship. And I have to enunciate the P because it could be mistaken. It's very small. We live up on a mountain, and I have 3 two-legged children, a 22-year-old son, a 19-year-old son, and then my newly hired, because she's never been on the payroll before, but my newly hired 12-year-old daughter, who is now my cabbie assistant officially. And then I have been married for 24 years, and I'm the same as Rebecca. What's really interesting about both of us is if you were to see us day to day, it's generally no makeup, covered in sweat and heat, and we look like we would be the furthest people from being a fashion stylist. And that's what I love, because I feel like our lives are full because we get a little bit of fixing ourselves up and making ourselves feel really good, and a lot of being outside, and we take earthing to a whole new level. We both love DIY projects. If you've known me for a while, you've seen me remodel my daughter's bedroom and move my office from my dining room, and Rebecca does the same thing. Oftentimes we'll call each other and be like, oh, I got to put this tile in, or, so it's interesting how not just through cabbie our lives align, but also outside of cabbie our lives are very, very similar. And I guess we should have expected that, knowing that our initial contact was over a dog, but everybody has dogs. Now, as far as animals, I think we're up to about 40. And unlike Rebecca, we don't have anything registered. They're all farm mutts, and they're amazing. So we have black-bellied Barbados sheep. They are a wild mountain sheep. You don't have to shear them. My husband pretty much just feeds them hay because he likes to see the rams fight. It is kind of cool. We also have about 10 goats, half pygmy, half fainting. So we get some that look pretty silly when they get spooked. And then we have 3 cats, 3 dogs, and I might be leaving something out, but we have a lot of animals around here. So going on vacation takes a lot of planning and a little bit of money to pay somebody to come take care of these animals. So we don't really go too far too often.
It just doesn't really happen for us. It seems like if one is gone, then the other one's home taking care of things, and vice versa. And 20 years later, maybe we'll have a 20-year anniversary honeymoon. I don't know.
Maybe we should just leave the husbands to feed the animals and you and I connect halfway. I think that sounds even better. So here's my question for you, Rebecca. So that everybody knows, we know that, I know that you have many different backgrounds in employment. I also know you were with a previous direct sales company, and you specialize in makeup, all things skin. So what drew you to making the switch as a cabbie stylist? Because if you look at the difference between what you did before versus now, cabbie can be a quite physical job. We're carrying garment bags and we have inventory to haul, and it's truly more of a franchise boutique that's on wheels. So going from packing a little bag of makeup to 10 garment bags and going on location with everything, it can seem daunting. So what drew you to this? Was that even like a thought in your mind?
So no, okay. I did not grow up and say one day I'm going to be a fashion stylist, but I also did not grow up and say one day I'm going to be a makeup artist. So you just never know where life is going to take you. And really, I had been buying cabbie clothes for years before applying to be a stylist. And what drew me to the company was the quality of the clothes and the wearability. And then as I learned more, just the culture of cabbie. This business is truly like no other. And like you said, it is a franchise, more of a franchise type situation than a normal direct sales deal. But I had come from a background of makeup, like you had said, and I'd also bought for a retail store. I'd bought clothing and accessories for a retail store. So I had some of that. And really, it was the freedom and flexibility. The direct sales company that I was in a leadership role with, I was just really maxed out emotionally. And I was not thrilled with things that were happening there. And so I was open to looking for something, and really I needed it to be something that I believed in, and I needed it to be something that worked around our lives, because at that time we had a bunch of sheep, and I was the head sheep herder and was lambing out lots of ewes every year in December and January in Kansas, which is very cold. So it was labor intensive, and I just needed to be here. So I needed something that I could make real money at while setting my own schedule and fully believing in what I did. And this checked all those boxes.
Very cool. And when you
Yeah.
say it was labor intensive, no pun intended, I know you probably had to get your hands dirty on that job.
Just a little. Yeah. Sometimes more than just my hands. How about for you? What initially drew you to Cabby and just being a stylist for the women that you love so much now?
Well, like you, gosh, life gives you lots of, I never planned to be in the banking industry for 20 years. Nothing I thought I was going to do was ever what came into my life. I didn't even remember for a couple of years after I started Cabby that I had some fashion background, because life just kind of throws things at you. So when I was in high school in Utah, we had a department store called ZCMI, and your junior and senior year, you could qualify. They selected 100 girls across the state to represent their community, and you worked for ZCMI, and you got to go do a fashion show. If you were lucky, you got to be in the bridal show, and I got selected. So my picture was in every ZCMI, and it was the most awful picture in the world for a year. And then the next year, they actually asked me to come back and work as an intern for the buyers and the fashion house ladies of ZCMI. So I got to go to all the photo shoots. There's a very fancy French restaurant here in Salt Lake. It's called Le Caille. They did a lot of things on location, and it was an hour drive for me. And back then I had a station wagon we called the Party Log. I had to borrow it from my mother. There was no air conditioning and no GPS. And I had to figure out how to get from my small town an hour down into South Salt Lake at whatever location they were at. And I look back at that experience and I went, oh my gosh, that probably impacted me more than I ever thought it did. I got to see behind the scenes of kind of what happens in the world of fashion. And I never felt like I was the fashionable kid. I always liked things. And I look back and I wore things that nobody else wore. I remember borrowing my neighbor, who was a boy. I was way ahead at the times, let me tell you, but he had money and he could buy all the Girbauds you could imagine. And they were all the patterns and all the stripes. If you remember the brand Girbauds, they were quite expensive. And my mom had 5 daughters and we couldn't dress in those things. So I had the knockoff Doc Martens and I had the knockoff Girbauds, but nothing authentic. But I do remember wearing a black sleeveless bodysuit, and I would beg Kendall if I could borrow his Girbauds, which is really funny because I was literally wearing a boyfriend jean. They were way big on me. They were way too long, but I hooked a belt around them, let them sag. I totally got the penis pocket. And like, I rocked those clothes. And I think back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like the only one, like I was borrowing my neighbor who was 6 feet tall. I was borrowing his clothes and he didn't care. Like, what was so cool about it is he didn't care. And I'd wash them and hang them dry and take them back. So I actually think fashion was meant to be in my life. I just didn't know it. And when I was a hostess, I was working in the banking industry. Cabby was only 2 years old, and a lookbook was thrown at me through the drive-through window. You could barely see the pictures in the lookbook. And I held my first, I was a hostess for a year and a half. And I thought, oh my gosh, I could do this, because I had tried to sell other things, but I felt like I needed a medical degree to sell them, because what came into my lap before that was not makeup. It was herbs and things, because I was looking for health benefits for my husband. But I never felt like I was authentically selling those things, because I didn't know all the answers and I was young. And then Cabby came into my life, and I thought, oh, I'll just host again, because I can't afford, or I wouldn't spend that money on myself. And hosting was an excuse. And all of a sudden I just was like, I didn't even think twice. I kind of just jumped in, and I've never looked back at taking that leap. So this is my second go around. So it must be, there.
Yeah. So your comment about the station wagon without any GPS or air conditioning cracked me up, because I was just visiting with a friend of mine this afternoon, and she said this was the first full day. Yesterday was a half day for us going back to school this year. And her daughter came home and was lamenting about the fact that it's like jail. And she says, really? What do you mean? And she says, well, you have to ask her to go to the bathroom, and you can't have your phone in the class, and you can't talk after you're done with your work. And her and I were both laughing about the fact that, oh, gee, you can't have your phone in class. We didn't even have phones back in the day. And, when I was growing up, I think my senior year of high school, I remember us getting a cordless phone. I mean, before that, it was all like the one stuck to the wall, and you could get only so far and stretch the cord out to the max to try to get away from everybody to talk on the phone.
And you couldn't talk to anybody long distance, because your dad was always, Amy, you've been on there for 5 minutes. And I'm like,
yeah,
so
exactly.
Like, especially when you're from a small town and another small town's only 30 minutes away, and you like a boy from that small town, you want to be able to talk to them. But
yeah,
dad was always like, you're gonna cost me a fortune. And I'm like, holy crap, we pay $40 for each kid to have a cell phone these days. That was a lot of long distance phone calls back then. So
yeah. Anyway, it cracked me up.
Did you ever name your cars? Because I don't know if you heard, but
every car has a name.
So we called our station wagon the Party Log. What was your favorite car, and what was its name?
Well, I think that my favorite car was my car that was the bomb, and it was a canary yellow Mustang that was ridiculously, like, way past its prime. We'll just say that. But we had Betsy. My dad's truck was Fred, and that was really a cool, and it's still in our family. Fred is a 1960 green and white Ford pickup, a half-ton with the wraparound back window, just an absolutely beautiful truck. And so Fred was a mainstay. Then we had Big Red, which ended up being my truck. It was a lifted Ford pickup with great big old, they used to race it on the sand dunes. And so it had great big, huge tires and this little bitty steering wheel. And I absolutely loved it. You kind of need it. My mom definitely needed a ladder to get into it, because mom's short. But yeah, we named everything. And still to this day, it drives Kevin nuts, because I name everything. My car is Mabel. Millie was my old Enclave. I mean, I name everything.
Well, I haven't named my cars recently, but my daughter was like, I said, okay, we're going to call, I have a label maker. And when I worked in the bank, we had a label maker, and we named it George. And so I said, really, we have to have a name for our label maker. And she was like, what? So confused. And I go, we need to call her Jessie. So our label maker is Jessie. My laminator is Sally, and my ice maker is Elsa. So, it's just easier when you tell the kids to go get Jessie. They know exactly what you're talking about.
Inanimate objects is wonderful. Yeah. Okay. I had a question okay, here was my question for you. I was thinking while you're sharing, tell us if your day was completely cleared and you could get up in the morning and do exactly what you wanted until the sun went down, what would you do?
Wow. Well, here's the thing. I'm not very productive when I have a clear schedule. I am much more functional when I have things I know I have to do. So to be honest, if I found out that I had a clear schedule, I would probably not get dressed and eat and like sleep and maybe watch a funny movie. If I
Hey,
knew
that sounds awesome.
what?
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I don't like, honestly, I think part of it is because our careers take us on the road and at night quite a bit. And then I'm busy during the day, especially in this summer, like running really different places. We always have appointments to go to. When I do have a down day, which is kind of rare for me to just not have anything to do, I honestly may get up and work out in the morning. I'm trying to do that more, but then I'll either be outside. If it's super hot, I go outside when it cools off and it's night. And I kind of hide in my air conditioned house during the day. So I honestly would probably veg. I really, really would. I'm just being real. I am not productive without a schedule. I'm just not like,
Well, I think it's important for us to have those days, though. I mean, we truly need those days where we just are non-productive. Otherwise, we'll just burn out.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think as women, we feel guilty about that, and we should not feel guilty about it. We should not make excuses for needing that. We just need to own the fact that we run all the time. We pour into everyone else, and sometimes we just need to not get dressed, not take a shower, not put a bra on, and be completely unproductive for the day.
Yeah, totally. And
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of blessed in that where with my husband getting MS when he was so young, he had to learn to listen to his body, which he fought and fought and fought. But he would often come in and take a nap, and like especially in the heat of the day, because the heat was really hard on him. And so I had small children and I had to teach them this was our quiet time and we had to be quiet because daddy was sleeping. And it kind of turned us all into nappers. Sunday, for sure, I take a nap every Sunday. And I always think it's going to be 20 minutes and I wake up 2 hours later. So I think by the end of the week, it really just kicks in and I'm like, oh, I'm done. But we need those times for sure. Okay, I have one for you. And then if you don't have anything else, we can kind of cut it down. But same kind of question. If you didn't have all the responsibilities that you have, if traveling was easier, is there anywhere you would love to go that you've never been and why?
Oh, that is a hard one for me to answer because there are so many places that I want to go. Is this a trip that I'm doing on my own, or is this a trip that Kevin and I are going together?
Oh no, we have way more fun without the men. So maybe I'll go
Yeah,
with,
because it's a completely different response. So
yeah.
honestly, for me, anywhere warm, anywhere tropical that involves sand and ocean, that's really, I mean, I love to hear the waves crash. There is something just completely rejuvenating about that for me. And so it doesn't have to be anywhere fancy. It could just be, somewhere with a beach, and I'm very happy. I would love to go to Scotland. That's one of the places that's high on my list to go, and
I
Australia.
was gonna say Ireland, so maybe we can
Yes,
like go somewhere like that together and go tour the castles.
I'm there. I'm there. Yeah,
I would
for
also
sure.
like to go to the Mayans.
Yes, I have an entire bucket list of places that I want to go. So you and I just need to probably start checking those off, because I have a feeling that our husbands are kind of the same about that. They really couldn't care less. Now, I think one place that Kevin would be just really willing, I'll say willing to go out of the country is Israel. And I would love to take him to Israel sometime, after all the craziness from COVID restrictions and everything are gone, I would like for us to go. And he watches a lot of YouTube videos from this one tour guide there that really gets into just the history, and it's fascinating, and I think he would thoroughly enjoy that. Here in the States,
I have somebody that I know that I need to connect you with, who's been there several times and has gone by himself with his wife in all the places you're not supposed to go, and talks about it. In fact, he subscribes, I think he calls it, there's a YouTube channel called Israel 365, I think.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to we'll
get that to me. I was honestly, I'm going to surprise him with a trip to Israel for our 20th anniversary this winter. In December, we'll be married 20 years. Woo! But there's no way with, he does not.
You could always go back to Vegas and celebrate where you got married.
We could.
That's a little like Israel, right?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I'm sure there is a little Israel there somewhere.
This is another thing that aligns us, because I spent my honeymoon there. So
So J-Lo and Ben Affleck just got married in the little white wedding chapel that Kevin and I got married in, which is kind of funny.
Well, she's been married enough, so if this one sticks, we'll know why. It was the right chapel.
Yeah, well, it worked for us, so let's hope it worked as well for her as it has for Kevin and I, because we weren't supposed to have lasted past a few months.
Yeah, I know that one. So
all right, well, what else? You think they need to know any more deep, dark secrets about us, or should we leave a little bit for them to figure out as we go along?
Well, it's like clothes. Let's reveal a little bit at a time and leave the rest for Cabby After Dark.
Sounds good. Bring us home, girl.
Well, I'll wrap us up then. And we hope you enjoyed this fun reintroduction episode with Rebecca and I. We know that you probably have many other questions for us or things that you may want to know about us. So definitely type those in the comments, send us messages, and maybe we could revisit and do a Q&A later this season with your questions. That would be a lot of fun. So if you have any, even the ones you never want to ask, but you could, we can even leave those anonymous if you want us to. So that would just be a lot of fun. We want to let you know we will be back next Friday with some really fun videos. We're going to talk all about the trends, and we may have a couple other things up our sleeveless sleeves. So definitely tune in each week. Send and share these videos with your friends and family and those fashion lovers of yours that would just be interested in maybe like a little bit of help that they don't necessarily get at the shows, or maybe they've gone to a show and you see that we are highlighting a piece and they are not quite sure how to wear it. Definitely share the episodes with them. The cool thing about this is we don't even have to be your stylist. We don't expect you to buy from us. We just want to be out there in the universe serving through Cabby. So if that's all that we have today, and I can't speak, I'm like, speaking is very difficult, but I'm going to wrap this up. We will be back with you next week. So we'll see you then.
Bye.